Hello, this is Dr. Mears. Today we are going to be learning about conditional probability. So here's our example. In a class of 29 students, 20 students study French, 15 students study Malay, and 8 students study both languages. A student is chosen at random from the class. Find the probability that the student, and so what we're going to have to do is find probability. When they say is chosen at random, that means that we're going to be doing a probability question, and this asks us as such, find the probability. So we have to remember probability is part out of the whole. And I'm also going to be using probability notation. So here we go. I drew this little Venn diagram for you because that's where we need to start. In order to answer these questions, it's going to be so much easier just to go and relate it back to the Venn diagram so that we can find our numbers. So I'm going to make this the French, and that is the Malay. And we know that 8 students study both, and that's where I say to start is in that middle, 8. Now, in this side, this French circle, we know that 20 students study French. So this 8 plus another 12 will give us 20. So these two numbers have to add up to 20. Now it also says that 15 students study Malay. So 8, that must be 7 because 8 plus 7 study Malay. Now if I add 12, 8, and 20, and 7, I get 27. So that means that there's 2 left over, meaning that 2 take neither subject. So if you add 12, 8, 7, and 2, we should get back to 29, which we do. I like to write my total down here. Total is 29, just so that I know that was my total. Now that we have our Venn diagram set up, we can actually go on and do our probability. So part A, studies French. So I'm going to use notation, the probability that a student studies French. So all I did was a capital P with parentheses and French inside. This says that I'm looking for the number of students that, the probability of students studying French. Now, what I'm going to have to do is I need to put the whole part down here, meaning the whole total. Well, there's 29 students in this class. And well, how many study French? So let's look at this French circle. This is the French circle, so 12 plus 8 is 20. So our probability would be 20 out of 29. I am going to divide that out, and this is 0.69. I'm dividing everyone out so that I can show you that they're always numbers between 0 and 1, inclusive of 0 and 1. It's never going to be more than 1, and it's never going to be less than 0. So this is 20 out of 29 and in a decimal 0.69. So the probability that a student studies French is 0.69. Now, student studies neither language. I'm just going to put P, and then I'm going to really just write the word neither, neither language. There we go. I'm not going to get fancy here. It was easy with French because it was just capital F. Okay, so neither language. So first we have to figure out neither language. So this is out of the total class 29. Neither language, I look at my Venn diagram, there's 2. So 2 out of 29, dividing that out, I'm going to get 0.067. You could have routed that to 0.07, that's fine, but I wanted to show you those 3 decimals. Okay, next. Studies at least one language. So the probability at least one equals. And again, I just wrote the probability, P as for probability, and then I wrote that at least one. So this is studies at least one language. The total is again out of the whole class, so it's 29. Now, at least one. So French, these 12 just speak French. So this is the just speak French. So it's going to be 12 plus just speak Malay. 7 just speak Malay plus 7 plus, now it says at least one, so we can have French and Malay, which is 8. So adding all of those up, I'm going to get 27 out of our 29 students speak at least one. And doing that out, I get 0.93, dividing that out. Okay, what's next? Studies both languages. Okay, so probability both equals, and again, it's out of the whole class, 29. Both languages I'm going to look, and that is where they intersect. So that is this 8. And 8 divided by 29 is, I'm going to round to 0.28. So you just divide 8 divided by 29. Okay, let's see what's next. Studies Malay given that they study French. Studies Malay given that they study French. So how we write this is the probability that they study Malay, and you're going to use this long symbol here, just a straight line, straight horizontal, straight vertical line This means given French. And so we have a rule where what we're going to have to find is first the probability, the probability that they're going to be, oh, not the probability, I'm sorry, we're finding the number, remember N is the number that they study Malay and French. And we're going to divide that by the number that study French. So here's the thing, we have set a condition on this. The condition is that given they study French, and so when we're given that they study French, we have to take it out of the total number of people who study French. So we can only look at our French circle, which is this one, the front F circle. So I'm actually going to fill in the denominator first here. So the number that study French, the total number that study French. And from our problem up here, you can either add 12 and 8. That's the total number that study French. Or you can even use it from the problem they gave you 20. So 12 and 8 add up to 20. So what has happened here is that our denominator has changed. The reason why our denominator has changed is because we put a condition on it. The condition was that they needed to study French. So we can only look at these people in that French circle. We can only look out of these 20 people. We now need to find the number that study Malay. And that's what's going to go on top, Malay and French. The number that study Malay and French. So we look up here, inside the French circle, the number that study Malay is our 8. So that is 8. So now we have 8, which is the both, at the same time, Malay and French, out of the total number of people. The number of French, these are always going to match up. So this is going to be in the denominator, just as this is going to be in back of this line. 8 divided by 20 in my calculator is 0.40. All right, let's set another condition on this. Okay. Studies French given that they study Malay. So let's reverse it. The probability studies French given they study Malay. So now my condition is that they have to study Malay. So since they have to study Malay, I'm only going to look at the Malay circle. I only want the number of people from my Malay circle. In the numerator, I'm going to need to put the number of people that study French and Malay at the same time. And you will see you actually received a probabilities rule sheet, and this is at the bottom of the probability rule sheet. So we need the number of total students that study Malay. So if we go up here, here is the Malay circle. We can do this one of two ways. We can add 8 and 7, which gives us 15, or you can remember back in the problem up here, it told us that it was 15. So 8 and 7, so from this Malay circle, we know that 15 people take Malay, 15. And now we need French and Malay. We know that middle part of the circle was 8. So from this Malay circle, how many people study French? And it's this 8 right there. So our denominator has changed to 15 because we put a condition on it. The condition was that the people had to be in the Malay circle, had to study Malay. So right here and right here, those match up. Dividing it out in our calculator, we get 8 divided by 15, which is 0.533. Actually, we could just put 0.53. Okay, last one. Students study both languages given they study at least one of the languages. So let's write that out. So the probability that they study both given a line at least one. So what we're going to have to do, here's our condition. So we have to start with the number of at least one. That's our condition. That's going to be our denominator. Condition, denominator. Do you see it? Thank you. Then on top, we're going to need to find the number that study both and at least one. Okay, let's go find those numbers. Just making it to the end of the page. Oh, there goes the lights. I took too long with the video. Okay, so that's kind of like the bell when at the Oscars after the long speech. So I got to finish this up pretty quick. All right, so the number of at least one. So let's look up here because I remember doing that up here. So at least one, right here, I have it. At least one, we found that there's 27 students. Well, let's say that you didn't have a problem that asked. How would we find at least one again? So at least one is one, or just the other, or both. So I added the 12, the 8, and the 7, and that's how I got to the 27. So I am going to be putting that denominator here because that is our condition. Our condition is that they have to be from that at least one group. So they basically have to be in either one of those circles or both. Now let's look at our numerator. We have to find the number of both and at least one. Well, here's the thing. If they're in both, they're in at least one. So what we have to look at is this 8, because if they're in both, then they are in at least one as well. So it is that 8. So our answers are going to be 8 over 27. And if we divide 8 by 27, we get 0.296. You can round that to 0.30. Oh, I'm sorry. Couldn't see it. You can round that to 0.30. I'm absolutely fine. Just in case we change that into a percent chance, which we're going to be getting into because we're going to be doing our probability games, that would be a 30% chance. So we'll talk about that later. All right, well, this has been conditional probability. Please review, rewind, call me over, ask me questions. Hopefully it helped work on your GCSEs. Thank you.